Well, the video for 8/25/19 is with Aristo and myself, and it's entitled The Step to Healthy Social Change, and this is video number 3188. Aristo, tell us what the most important step is to real, healthy social change.
The most important step is internal. You do not take a step out until you take a step in and then reassess the situation in terms of how many steps in you need to take. Unless your situation is dire, so much so that you have to do something. You have a gun to your head, you have to do something, which is what the system is trying to convince us. We are being, think about it this way. We live in a system, a socially engineered society. This is not a conspiracy. Even if you believe things are as they are, society is still socially engineered. It's just that we're the engineers ourselves, allegedly, or at least wise people were the engineers or whoever. Engineering is good, in other words, and it's democratic, and it's basically the system we've all agreed upon. But, there are acceptable behaviors and unacceptable and this and that. And there's a lot of injustice because that's the way the world is, allegedly, or because people deserve it, deserve injustice. Well, they deserve bad things to happen to them, or because they are not as they should be, or they do not conform. But, if you really look at things, there is an authoritarian conditioning of human society, and, where that comes from. It's not that it exists or not, it does exist. I mean, conditioning, we have schools, that's conditioning. We have religions, that's conditioning. We have political systems. These are all things we have to learn to, to absorb and to act upon. So conditioning, one might say, isn't even bad, it's necessary. Authoritative conditioning is even good. Our parents are authorities if they're good people, if they're wise people, all of these qualifications. But if there is a psychopathic authority, see, this is where the conspiracy comes in, that the authority cannot be psychopathic because they are what? They can't get in there, they're crazy, they're incompetent. It's been proven that, So you have a historic condition and you say, okay, you have people who, and psychopaths don't declare themselves to be psychopaths, usually.
Oh, obviously not. Well,
So in their own eyes, the name these factions may give themselves is enlightened ones, So we're just talking here, it's not like this is the way it is. I'm being more allegorical than anything else. But these enlightened ones basically have divorced themselves from what it means to be human with other humans. They've realized certain things that are true, scientific, so to speak, within the framework of their vision. And these things are that, yes, humans can learn. We're learning organisms, which means we can be programmed, because there's a fine line between the two. Learning is autonomous. Programming is imposed. That's basically how I see it. So we're looking at the most important step in social change is to check your own system. To use a mechanical analogy, recalibrate yourself. Remove the conditioning that does not feel right to you, because your heart is really the one that determines what is right and what is wrong, if you are a healthy individual. If not, you'll think, oh, this is bunk, and forget it. And you will feel healthy, and you may still feel healthy or whatever. But according to my definition of a healthy individual who can empathize with other individuals, empathy is not missing in a psychologically or psychically healthy individual. Now, there's two things here. This is the step for social change. Now, of course, what prompted this was, I just ran across some quote by Marianne Williamson. You said she was a Democratic a candidate for presidency, Democratic Party and all that. And basically, she in one of her talks, she looked out and she said, well, look at the world. If you don't grieve, something's wrong with you. If you don't look at the state of the world and you don't find yourself grieving, and many people actually may find themselves depressed and grieving, because that's what depression is. It's a form of grief. because consciously they're denying the state of the world, but subconsciously they cannot. It is what it is, you know. So it's not just the state of the world of what might happen to somebody else, but everything is connected. So they see symptoms of the state of the world in their own lives, even though they may not think that way, even though they may be saying, I have to get up every morning, go to work, whatever, deal with the family and everything else, be a responsible human being as I was taught to be. And yet that's not right. Something is wrong there somewhere. You know, I cannot be living this acceptable life in the midst of unacceptable conditions. That's the thing. Now, what is that? Means the cost of my life is everybody else's suffering. What's this? And yet this is the position we're put in. I mean, you are complicit with the ones destroying the planet, shall we say, when you know, do something that is basically aligned with them for your own interests. And that's the logical thing. You know, if they run society, you work for society, you basically, and think society is humanity, you're going to do what you're told because that's the responsible thing to do. And if you're in a position where actually somewhat affluent, you're not going to be, you know, taken off the hook. The karma it's not just the karma, but it's their definition. You know, they want you complicit. If there is going to be a judgment, they want to be able to say, yeah, see those people over there, they got the mark of the beast on them too. Or that even though, me? I just wanted to raise a family and get a job and do what I was told was right. Nope, sorry.
Yeah, well, their game plan to me seems to be to polarize us more and more and more.
Exactly.
And that's going on all over the world.
It's
in Hong Kong and in various places in Europe, and France is and up. I mean, lots of things going on.
What they're trying to do is convince us that we are already irredeemably polarized. It's not that they are trying to polarize us, I think. I think they are trying to convince us. You see, it's all brainwashing. It's all theater, even though it's realistic theater with real people and all that. But the idea here, and the thing is, people are grieving. They wouldn't be acting like this, and the system knows they're grieving, meaning that the system knows. That's why there's no concealment. After 3 weeks, the Amazon forest has been burning, and finally, when it's burning to the point that it's going to make us all depressed about it, you know, that's when we're told. When it's a small thing, when they could have done something about it, but now we're told, look at this disaster. And when are we told? After a whole bunch of propaganda about global warming gets spit out. So all of this stuff, there's patterns. And so what do? Ms. Williamson basically says, you know, activism. It's not enough to just wake up. It's not enough to just inform people. Now you have to be an activist. You have to do something. Now, I don't disagree with this, but so activism is the external step to transformation. It's not informing people, because informing people is part of activism, basically, only when everybody's ignorant. Right now, we're not in that case, and everybody basically knows it seems, who is into alternative type information. It's the age of waking people up is over. You know, right now everybody knows about it, and they've become polarized anyways. I'm awake, but in the wrong way, for example. Oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist. They told me about you. They told me about all of this. They say this, this, and that. So you're being informed by the wrong people. It's a massive information campaign or disinformation campaign on top. COINTELPRO, some people call it, back in the day, you know. But the thing is, then another viewpoint comes in and goes, okay, look, the discrepancy, it's not about what you should do, because what I believe you should do, you know, that, according to this talk, of course, what I believe you should do is, if you're going to make social change, there's two steps. One is internal. You have to look within, and are you the one to make social change in the way you want to make it? Who are you? What are your weaknesses? What are your strengths? What is the healing that you need, you know? Because you can't just go in there, because you will make mistakes, and then that's fine. We always do, but your mistakes will be calculated. They will be used against you, because they will be used to figure you out. They will be used to figure out your weaknesses, and they will be used to set up a precedent so the next person that comes along with good intentions is, you know, the experimental subject, shall we say, for the information you gave and all of that. And I know I'm fading in and out a little bit. Who knows?
That's the first time I saw it. Right, that just.
Yeah, it's been happening. It happens in every video, you know, or most every video. Either the sound goes off or the image goes really weird. And I think this thing is maybe like a signal of woo-woo, you know, this guy's getting into tinfoil hat territory and who knows what. But really not, because whenever you want to do something, if you want to go and accomplish something, you have to have an inner dialogue, a pep talk, something. You can't just go do it. The Nike commercial of just do it doesn't really, you know, it starts within. That's where the doing starts. So external activism is a big deal. I mean, even secret societies who actually historically caused a lot of revolutions in the last 300 years, for example, these secret societies had a lot of a long preparation period, and they were secret. They weren't on the internet going on social media telling everybody what they're doing against the system that owns the social media. I mean, you know, it's the most ludicrous thing you can imagine of being in the system. This is why some mainstream people might think alternative people are crazy. And it's a legit thing. What you're actually thinking that the system is you know, out to get you, okay? So what are you doing? You're going onto a platform of the system and telling everybody publicly that the system is the enemy. So if this were true, don't you think there would be repercussions? So the very fact that the system doesn't act on it, and the very fact that we're all allowed to spout all this stuff means that there is no conspiracy. Until the day that, you know, people start dropping like flies, or many already have, but it's all touted as coincidence. I mean, how long can the system make excuses for certain things happening? But the fact is, people will believe it because it offers them peace of mind. People will do anything for peace of mind. And that's another experiment being offered. Religion is there to give you peace of mind, but at a cost. You have to do the things that you're told. Politics are going to give you peace of mind because the terrorists aren't going to get you. Economics are going to give you peace of mind because your fiat currency is not going to collapse. You know, all of these things are being given peace of mind because your life is owned by external factors. In the past, it was nature. Now it's other people, which is better. I mean, okay, yeah, nature, chaotic diseases, this, that, but other people who want to end you. I mean, if there was compassionate people, yeah, we go Mother Nature, Father God, Father this. Well, then other people come in and go, hey, you want parents? I'm your parents. And they wear a funny gold hat and call themselves God or priest or whatever, you know, and you end up, you know, saying, yeah, mommy, daddy, give me the nipple. And they're pedophiles. So what does that tell you? That they consider everybody like a baby, like an infant, and infants are meant to be raped. So you look within to examine if your mentality is infantile with respect to the situation. And we need to, in my honest opinion, if we need to do anything right now, as far as current right now trends are concerned, is we need to get over collectively, and I'm sure many people have, and the thinking people have in this, but it's just a direction pointer. Quit whining about bullying. You know, bullying, as a matter of fact, if you're in a dynamic that's is against you and all of this, and you know, you need to know who your friends are, and you need to know that there are those who will bully you. And bullying is a tactic that's encouraged by the system, as well as discouraged if the wrong person is doing it, if you're not an endorsed person, and you even begin to engage in any kind of authoritative, self-confident exposition, you will be slammed down as a bully by someone. And I mean, anybody can create a term, bully, criminal, terrorist, whatever, and then point fingers, and that's it. So we're giving a system a lot of rope to hang us with, you know, when we do these things. And we need to consolidate our energies, because the stage of where the shit was is over. You know, the stage of, okay, let's find out what's wrong. Let's tell other people. Let's get a game plan going. Right now, we need to see where we can step in to promote our own personal activism. And someone might say, well, what you resist persists. We talked about that as well. So that depends on the word resistance. I mean, it is true. If you are struggling against something, it's not going to end, because you're holding it, you're grasping it, you're struggling against it. But if you just stop struggling against it, the momentum of your previous struggle is going to bowl over you. So before you just release the timer of the bomb and let it go to zero and blow you up, you need to diffuse the bomb. You know, that's the whole point. It's like your resistance essentially, it's like a spring. You can't just remove your resistance from the spring and it'll come and slap you. You know, there's repercussions. So it needs to be a timed release of resistance. It needs to be a thought out release of resistance. It's a process, because we're habitually resisting. But on the other hand, what is that other way of not resisting? Is it capitulating? Unfortunately, you see, we give people words and then they follow through literally or according to their own intuitive assessment of what it is an allegory of. And sometimes they're right. Often, you know, somebody who's really intuitive can get it. But they can also be wrong, because there's biases and there's a whole bunch of other things, or fears, or you don't want to face something. You don't want your mind to go to the logical conclusion, because right before you is a trauma that you have to face. You're reminded of your own bullying if you try to take this thought to the logical conclusion and find your own empowerment. So the planet essentially, well, let's not get to that level, but what I want to do is like walk the fine line, and I've always been doing this in these talks, between the fringe conspiracy zone and the moderate conspiracy zone, or the conspiracy zone that can actually relate to the normal people, so to speak, because the normal people do have their own logic and they can reach a certain point. But the system is very hard trying to push back that line. It's not about waking people up anymore. It's about helping them focus. But to do that, you need to be an example instead of a theorist. And an example is not going to, it's not so simple as it sounds. It's not going out and being a public activist or whatever. The system will turn you into and spin you into whatever it wants if you even get public. Or else you will be drowned out in the algorithms of Google or wherever, or even in your own social group. Or you will find that you cannot sustain your financial situation sporting the ideas that you have if you actually make them public a lot. You know, you will be demonized. This isn't something that's going to get you ahead socially. So another approach is needed. You know, that's what I've been saying all along. The whole thing is to decondition ourselves, whatever, to realize what this other approach is. And you've been calling for something, you know, somebody, something. I don't see how this can work unless something else happens, you know, unless God intervenes or against whatever. But that something is actually a possibility that's blotted out for us for the most part, because we're looking at it, one, the wrong way, and the second, because we have all these other belief systems that take precedence, and third, because we are afraid. And all of these people that say fear isn't real and fear is just a mind killer and I will not fear, it's not. I don't think it works like that. Fear actually references trauma. You know, it's not little babies are afraid of certain things, you know, like loud noises and, you know, bright lights and, you know, abrupt, violent, whatever things falling down, you know, but the actual fears that most adults have are trauma-based. It goes right back to something, you know, and it's not just a physical event. It can be mental trauma. It can be social conditioning. It can be a whole bunch of things. But these fears are experiences. And it's a whole, how shall we say, like a a big involved thing to actually address these fears, and let alone heal them. So it takes a long time. And that's the thing. It's like if somebody says, well, what you resist persists, you know, but the thing is, how long are you going to be dealing with the internal stuff? You know, you can be dealing with it a whole lifetime before you get into the activist stuff. And the people say, the spiritual types say, yeah, of course, you know, it'll take you several lifetimes. So forget about the political transformation until you're ready after those several lifetimes. Whereas you can reply, no, I'm done with those lifetimes. Right now, I'm at the point where the rubber meets the road. So, you know, we are asking the critical question, why do all our transformation dynamics never lead to the material plane changing? You know, why is it always like some kind of idea and behavior pattern, and our life never changes? The same shit goes on. You know, we haven't learned anything. We have all this technology. Now, that's another thing. We haven't learned anything. Usually the social engineers will apply it for all of us. But we've learned quite a bit of things. But as a human collective, we are still in this mess of individuals capitulating to give their power to authorities that actually hate their guts and want them gone if they could. And they're very angry because they still need us, you know. And they want to find, but they're excited because they want to find the right way to do away with us, you know, and punish us for needing us in the first place. In any case, I think that, like you said, there's a polarization. So how do you heal things? How do you begin? You have to heal the polarizations. Which polarizations, though? Not the ones that the system is telling us to heal right now, because you're in the middle of their battle of disinformation. It's not like, you know, things like relations between the genders and relations between races and religions and all of that shouldn't be healed. But that's almost like putting the cart before the horse for me. I mean, there's a whole bunch of other things we need to heal, which is our inability to depolarize with other people just in front of us, you know, and sometimes our inability to depolarize with ourselves, you know, because we're the ones who are split in 2 or 3 or 4, you know. So all of these things, some people will say the following: look, the best thing that I can do right now in activism is to, you know, work on myself. Now, if that's an honest statement, it's a very powerful one, because it means that you're actually engaged in things most people do not want to deal with. And thus, if you can heal these things in some way, anything you heal, integrate truly, creates an energy that affects other people. So if you see that happening positively, and people are, you know, and not just some polite response and all of this, I mean, people actually being affected by you in some way, again, it's not as easy as it sounds, because most people will want to feed on what you're emanating and not deal with their issue. But eventually, if there is love in your energy field and all of this, it's going to prompt them to face certain things. That may not be pleasant because people are resisting facing certain things, see? And these things are persisting. So if people opened up to be true activists, things would fall into place more than they know. But the true activism isn't what they think it is. It has to start from within. And you have to, and a lot of people have done this in the sense of saying, look, but I have no clue about this shit. You know, all I know is that I got a government, this is what it's doing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But then look at it even deeper, even in these videos. That's why, you know, I've been rambling on and on. It's to look at the thing even deeper and say, look, do you have a government? Is it a government really? Or is it a bunch of people working for other people that are tasked to screw with you, you know, because you're something else, like a corporation or a straw man or all of these things? And that's a logical line of thought. But then people, again, in order to avoid problems, they take it to another level and buy into this bullshit. For example, that if you just tell the cop that he's a straw man or you're a straw man, he's going to leave you alone. If you just sign your name in a certain way, everybody will magically stop being a tyrant. When has that ever happened? I mean, this is, you know, and people seriously have argued about this shit. No, the cops, they all play a game. Everybody plays this game. It's all a game. See, no, that's psychopaths think that way, that it's all a game. that you can hurt as much as you want, but it's all a game. And at the end of the day, we just punch our punch cards and go home to the spiritual reality or whatever. And that's bullshit. You know, that's manipulation. You know, that's what rapists tell their victims, that it's all, you know, it'll be over soon. It's all a game. It's up to nothing. Don't worry. You know, any excuse. And you know you want it, you know. But the thing is that we read something, it automatically comes in unless it's our previous conditioning. And then we reject it. So these are like the extreme views. That's what resistance is: rejection, but it's also extreme acceptance, fanatical acceptance, because you are resisting what's behind the presentation. If you take the word of somebody who is a cultist and he tells you exactly what you want to hear, and it just comes in and takes over, and you're all of a sudden a dedicated follower, then you're resisting your true voice. So there's still resistance, but your true voice should be persisting, and it does. And it's called discomfort, and it's called misery, and it's called depression. You know, that's why I was attracted to Ms. Williamson's quote here, because the first symptom is not feeling good. The first symptom is not, you know, and everybody knows this. And that's the funny part, because they know it, but the instinct to just stop suffering, stop the pain, the immediate pain, is too strong. You know, how long, you know. And then you have all of these other zones that are attacking you to make sure you don't do this. They do not want, they want to give you the option. They want to give you the advice. They want to give you the word of wisdom. They don't want you to come up with it yourself. And if you do come up with it yourself and want to share it, you are demonized. And they will come up with false liars, people who look stupid on purpose because they're actually making fun of the real ones. And so anytime a real one pops out, you're going to remember the clown. We hate clowns. We hate masks. We hate all of these things, you know, these phobias, because they're phoniness. You don't know what's behind it, you know. And we instinctively open up to smiles. So this is the thing. You got some monster who's smiling. And the clown is a symbol of the psychopath, basically, you know, for a lot of people. The child molester, all of these things. So we have to confront these things. And if we want to do any real social change. So what the spiritually minded people say is correct in my view of resistance, but what the others say is also correct. What matters is context. Are you sure? My little camera is bobbing up and down, says I'm moving my hand on the table. But are you sure that your desire to not resist isn't escapism, you know? Are you sure your desire to head straight forward isn't just blind fanaticism or blind, you know, you're just so fed up with dealing with shit, you just want to go off the cliff. A blaze of glory, as it were. So if you're honest with yourself, then you can choose your own activism, because that's the only thing I can refer to at this point, is individual by individual, not groups, not color, not religion, not any of this. Individual by individual, not even gender or preference or any of that, you know, because it's honesty to honesty, you know, that's what matters. And if you are sure you are not fooling yourself, and that's another tricky thing, because, you know, we all do at some point. And we become aware of it at some point too, usually. And if we accept that awareness without judgment, you know, and then do something about it, it's all good. That's what mistakes are for, correcting them. Being aware that, okay, this is right because this other step doesn't work. I know it doesn't work because I tried it. Mistakes are there in order to validate what the right path is. You know, they confirm the right path. But to keep repeating mistakes in order to avoid something because of misinformation, because of whatever, excuse me, the tactics of your own human nature, the strategies you use to protect yourself, all of these things have been observed. We've been profiled as a species. And there is a terraforming going on right now. To anybody who has any kind of spiritual intuition, they will see a terraforming. But it is a psychic terraforming, okay? So we don't need to look at it in terms of the imagery of the media, flying saucers and entities waiting in the wings and interdimensional demons coming out and making funky CGI doorways and coming through with fancy Marvel Comics paraphernalia or whatever. No, it is something that's going on within the realm of awareness, within the realm of consciousness, of feeling, all of these, the subtle realm of subtle energetics. This is the terraforming. The physical is, sometimes you can tweak the physical to enhance that. Sometimes you can tweak that to make changes in the physical. So our mindset is changing. And it's not that we are being taken over by reptiles or this or that, or basically a planet, it is slated, shall we say. I mean, what kind of planet would a psychopath want? It depends on the psychopath. But the most organized psychopath would basically make a pen where they could raise food, you know, so we would be food. But what kind of food? This is psychic food. This isn't food like you eat. This is emotional food. So somebody phrased it as the following. The biggest food of these psychopaths is adrenaline saturated blood. Basically, child sacrifices, terrorize, torture children, and then eat them. This crazy thing of cannibalism combined with, you know, just the worst of the taboos. And they break them on purpose in order to drop their humanity and go into a zone where their mind is independent of emotions, instincts, and whatever, which is insanity. It's a selective insanity because it makes you feel empowered because you're not burdened by life. You're not burdened by the responses and responsibilities of relationship, basically. That's what they've done away with, is pure isolation, you know. So I don't mean to ramble on and stuff, but I wanted to come to the conclusion because relationship is the most important thing, okay? If you resist it, it persists. If you accommodate it, it will trample you. But if you understand, work with it, open up to it, and know yourself in relation to it, because you are your primary relation, then it can give you stuff. And that's how society changes. Master relationship. And it doesn't mean manipulation, and it doesn't mean accommodation, and it doesn't mean joining groups and feeling and patting each other on the back. It's something we are learning now. So nobody can come and say, what's this crap you're saying? You know, no, it's normal crap. It's real truth, normal crap. But it's stuff you've been saying for a long time. Okay, so I'm not saying anything new. I'm just giving it a little twist of perspective to steer it in a direction that may be helpful. If you can see it or hear it, you can see it and hear it. If not, that's cool. There's many things that can inspire you in this life, more than anyone would think. As many things that depress us, there are just as many that can inspire us, but they're there to inspire us so we can deal with what depresses us, not so we can escape. Anyways, thank you very much for listening, and I will, you know, maybe we can make another video before I'm offline, you know, a little more or have other things to do. So this will be maybe the second of 3 videos we make within maybe next week or something like that, and then we'll see. But thanks for listening, you know, and sorry for taking a little longer than it usually goes.
Okay, thank you, Aristo. Namaste.
Namaste and thumbs up.